Well, I'm really excited today to have Raj Kotecha on. Mate, I've been following your work for a long time after we met in Dubai, and you're doing so many cool things. You've got DJ, you're running My Friends, Your Friends. You've got all the stuff you're doing around content, and I'm just really excited to be able to have you on here. I'm grateful for the friendship we made since when we met over in Dubai back at, and take it away. Can you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, thanks for the invite, guys, and I very much appreciate your friendship and the connection that we've had since then. And I guess the best way to describe what I do is I'm a creative entrepreneur. On paper, I'm the CEO of the Creative Content Agency. We are a agency that is we're the machine behind a lot of the folks that have, if you look on LinkedIn and you see those people that have always got like the hottest podcast, the hottest vlogs in the B2B world, we're the engine behind that for a bunch of really cool folks here in the UAE and cool brands. On the passion project side, which kind of turned into something bigger than we expected, as you rightly mentioned, we've got My Friends, Your Friends, which is a gathering that we put together around 3 years ago. We asked 15 people to come to a bar here in Dubai and bring their friends along. About 120 showed up. And then we ended up with, doing another event, and people would sign up, bring their new friends, come back, to experience it again. And
Yeah.
12 events later, 3 years to almost to the day, with 3,500 people. Pre-COVID, we were having 500 people come to our events. So definitely the fastest growing social gathering in Dubai. Other flagship brands I would say would be VaynerWorld. We launched 2 books for Gary Vaynerchuk, Jab, 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 Right Hook. And then we did the Ask Gary V show overseas as part of that book launch as well. So that's called VaynerWorld. I've done 6 interviews with him. Good friend, great mentor. Love Soul DJs. Me and my cousin and partner Vic have DJed all around the world for the last 15 years. Great privilege to kind of benefit from turning what we love doing, our passion for music, into a job.
Yeah.
I think these are the things I'm probably best known for, and just overall like a happy dude. I hit 40 this year, so
Okay.
massive year to reflect, and
Right.
then COVID, which is a massive year to sit down on the couch and reflect. So
Yeah.
overall, I've always been a positive, happy guy. I'm very grateful for the luck I've received and the love I've received from people. But I think this year more than ever, it's an absolute peak.
Yep. It really is a blessing when you get that, when you're able to be able to create that happiness and that vibe. And
Yeah.
I don't know, since, when we, like, I remember when we first met, we're in the elevator going up to that function, and I think it was in the Marriott. And, we're just having a conversation, and we got out and we're like, man, this guy's a weapon. And then then we start to follow you and see you outside of the environment, and just you're always putting out such just content that has impact, and that's epic. And I know we're having a bit of a chat about some of the cool stuff that you're doing now, as well. We've sort of had random chats over the last period of time, and you're mentioning there's some exclusive stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. So
That
this is the first
about to
time.
announce. I've been seeing the teasers coming on Instagram.
Yeah. And actually it's amazing because no one's really managed to figure it out. So, I mean, but I'm very happy to share it with you guys for the first time. So,
Yeah, man.
when we had the agency last year, it grew 5 times in revenue from January till December.
Wow.
And we recognized there was a bit of a pattern, which is that
Mm.
every new client that we were taking on, and we've had the agency for 14 years. So really the pattern recognition was over a much longer period of time. But we recognized that the first 3 to 6 months of when we work with the client, they're
Mhm.
pretty much doing the same thing, which is they're experimenting with a number of tried and tested formats. We don't encourage reinventing the wheel until you've learned how to build a wheel. And so when it comes to content, we look at speaking solo to camera, like I'm doing right now,
Yep.
doing wrap-ups of event videos and all the most common content formats that you see. And we handhold them through that process.
Yep.
And we call that the 4 Ps of content. So we get people to focus on the 4 pillars of content creation as far as our agency works and the way we navigate, which is plan, produce, publish, and promote. So plan, what do you want to do? What do you consider success? What are you prepared to do to get there? Produce images, videos, text, graphics. Publish. So there's a bunch of places you can publish, but most successful places as of today, heading into 2021, is, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram for B2B. and then promote. And there's a bunch of ways you can promote. You can buy ads on social networks. You can work with influencers. So it takes about 6 months to get your head around that. And once Corona hit, we were obviously not able to teach this course in person in boardrooms. And it's a course that did really well for us. It was not cheap. It was something that businesses typically orientated towards. And so when we realized we couldn't be with businesses and we need to now start delivering it over Zoom, and Zoom became an option for us here in Dubai. Prior to now, it was not an option for us. And so we came up with an online version of the program. So we've recorded around 40 videos. And in those videos, you will learn the full syllabus as if we're teaching you in the boardroom. And then after learning that, we do what's called a hangover session, which is also something that we did in the real world, where instead of getting together with you in the same boardroom and talking through some of the things that you learn and doubling down on some of the lessons and discussing it and fleshing it out, we do that over Zoom. We then give you one of 5 exercises, and you do one of those 5 exercises, which is creating an actual piece of content. We then review that with you, which is a second one-on-one session. You then put that online, you publish it and you promote it. And then we review that with you and we look at the direct results and indirect results. And then we put you into a cohort with other people that now have a sense of what it is that they're doing, what their content mission statement is. And then you're part of this kind of collective. So, one thing that I've done over the years is, if you look at My Friends, Your Friends, if you look at the website, it kind of looks more like a conference. And when you make a big deal of the people speaking at your conference, we made a big deal of the people networking at our event. When you look at VaynerWorld, it looks much more like a theme park than a interview with Gary Vaynerchuk, because it's all about the elements of Gary's world. So with us, we wanted to invert this brand as well. And so the name of our brand is called Content Warriors. And when I was putting all the copy together and when I was building the business in my head, in the background, I was listening to people that had just completed the Spartan race and people that had just done Tough Mudder. And I was taking that energy and I was like, you know what? Anybody can make content. Cameras continue to get cheaper and cheaper. iPhones and smartphones continue to get more and more capable. And as a result of that, I feel like the production element will just continue to kind of be a race to the bottom and become cheaper and cheaper. Really, the thing that makes a good content creator is their strategy and their ability to make content in line with their strategy. So it's kind of content strategy cross-dressing as a personal challenge. And so that launches fourth quarter. So that's our latest business.
Awesome.
That's exciting.
So that must be like any day now.
Any day now. I mean, we've got the various different assets that we want to kind of put into the mix. And one of the things that I've been doing, which has been quite fun, is going through about 4 terabytes of high def footage, because I've actually been recording my journey from very, very early, from the early 2000s, stuff that I've done on TV, stuff that I've done on radio, and right through to just walking around with a tape camcorder, traveling around the world, DJing or being part of the media industry. And I've got all that footage. So I'm looking forward to putting that out, because I feel like there's a lot of people online that can give you advice and coach you and things like that. But what they lack is credibility and heritage. And often when you see them making videos, they're kind of talking to no one. I call it shadow boxing. When you just see someone speaking to camera being like, you need this or you need that, and you need to get out of this frame of mind. And I'm like, well, who are you talking to? And I'm very fortunate because, I've spoken at so many conferences and been to so many events on panels and things like that. And because I have all that as footage, I want to show that real advice that I've put out. And that goes back 15 years as of today. So I'm really hoping that anything that our cohorts need and anything that our students need that enter our program, we can answer it from a point of view of credibility and experience.
Then that's kind of like a documentation of your journey, right?
100%.
So like if you're going to listen to me, well, at least I know what I'm talking about because I've done it, not just because I'm telling you it's a good idea. Which it's the same thing that we see often is people run their mouth as the expert, but then when you actually lift the skirt and have a look, there's not much there. You know what I mean? Probably not the best. Probably not the best analogy, but whatever.
Did you say when you lift their skirt? Yeah, it's funny. You know what? That's actually a hood term. So it's funny like that you say that, because that's a hip hop term. We say like pull your skirt up, right? And of course it comes from an era where that kind of language was looked at completely differently. But that's, speaking of credibility, it's kind of a nice segue. Like for those people who've known me for quite some time, like in 1998, I started off as a party promoter, as a street promoter. And so my first kind of foray into content was making flyers. And I would be at university and they'd be telling me about USPs and bullet points and headlines and all the stuff I was learning. And then I was taking that and putting that onto flyers. And so for me, the content journey started at that point, maybe even earlier, making posters in my dad's convenience store. So yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at content, one of the things that we believe in a lot is that content sits above social media. Social media platforms can change. We were all there for Friendster. We were all there for MySpace. We were all there for the early days of Facebook when Facebook was spreading like wildfire. And the platforms go up and down, kind of like stocks and shares. But the value of good content and the ability for content to translate what it is that you want to do to the people that you want to receive it and then create a change in their behavior, that's something which is as old as time. You know, I was very lucky to go to the pyramids in Egypt, and I was looking on the walls and I was like, all content. This is all content, although it's stick men and things like that. It's it really is something which goes all the way back to our DNA in terms of one of the toolkits that we have as human beings to communicate. And as we move into this next decade and we start looking at things like 5G and LiDAR sensors and all of these kind of integrated big data and AI, the fundamentals of content creation are going to be more and more important as technology picks up more of the slack and the price of content creation goes down.
So that's a really good, You actually gave an amazing analogy about, I saw a clip just a little while back about innovation being like the X that went and got hot. Do you know what I mean? I'd love you to just give that short analogy, because I just saw that and I went, man, that's so relevant to the world today.
I'm very grateful that you mentioned that. It's the one that when people stop me when I'm out and about, it's the one that people mention the most. So the analogy there is that, you know, I'm 40 years old. This is my third recession, but probably the one that most people remember is the 2008 financial crisis. And prior to a crisis, there's often complacency with big businesses, and things are going well and systems are working, processes are working. And even though there are things creeping up like the internet and 3G and 4G and things like that, a lot of businesses kind of sit on their laurels. And so they don't really feel a need to innovate, even though there are companies in the background like the Amazons and like the Facebooks and Shopifys that are all making products that will ultimately disrupt the way that we do things, you know, in an 07, 08 world. So big businesses stopped paying attention to innovation. They literally stopped spending, you know, a significant amount of money on it. They didn't take innovators seriously. It wasn't an important part of their P&L. And so what happened is innovation kind of broke out and it went to the tech companies of Silicon Valley and it became hot. You know, it went to the gym, it lost a few pounds, it built up its muscles and got a six pack. And it's at that point that all the traditional retailers, you know, in the UK, it would be folks like Tesco and you know, large box retailers realized that actually Amazon's taking a share of wallet. And so then they tried to claw innovation back. So, and a great example might also be taxi companies. You know, taxi companies were not known for innovation and they were not known for also being cheap and efficient. And along comes Uber. You press a button, the car comes to you based on your map of where you are, your geography, and then takes you away. And then when the car ride is done, you're not looking in your wallet for coins and dirty notes. You're actually just walking out and it's a frictionless experience. So this is what I was saying, is that innovation kind of found its home elsewhere. And then by the time big business realized, or big, you know, traditional businesses realized, it was almost too late. Innovation was having its own kind of like, I'm coming out party. And it was, it was the hot guy on the block or the hot girl on the block. And big business treated innovation bad. You know, there's not a large company in the world from Walmart or any of these large organizations that in 05, 06, 07 couldn't have had a head start. If you think about the option of, you know, Blockbuster and its ability to have bought Netflix early on, and it treated it bad. It didn't take it out for that day. It didn't invest in it. And now it's gone.
So, go ahead.
I actually saw, I think it was yesterday or something on LinkedIn, one of the guys had an opportunity to buy 30% of Amazon at a 350 mil valuation. And he said no, because he was only willing to pay 300 valuation. And he missed 30% of Amazon. And that was not that long ago. And he said it's the worst decision of his life. He, you know, looks in the mirror every day, kicking himself. And rightfully so, if you miss one of those big opportunities. But same thing. But
they come along.
They come in.
They come around, you know.
I think, I mean, so here's the thing. I mean, the only part I would have an adjusted stance on that one is, you know, if you're the kind of person that gets offered 30% of Amazon for 350 million, you're probably not living a bad life anyway. You're in the slipstream of a deal flow that the average person walking down the street's not got access to. So hopefully I mean, I'm sure if the guy's allowed to be sad, it's great. But, you know, you look at the world we live in today and you look at COVID and the impact that it's had on the world. You look at the fact that we already had hundreds of years of poverty and war. Like the fact that we can wake up, take a hot shower, have our choice of breakfast. You know, we're so much, you know, they say that that's top 5%. But the reality is, I think on your deathbed, you'll realize that you were top fraction of 1% if you not only had food, clothing, and shelter, but you also had inner happiness. That's what really moves you from being in the economic top 5% to being in the holistic top 5%, is having 100%. Food, clothing, and shelter, and actually a sense of gratitude and satisfaction.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I think it's the people around you and the impact you make. You're going to remember a lot more than the jet.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's that legacy, really. I guess that leaving that legacy.
Yeah, it's where you get your happiness. You know, I just spent a weekend in Hatta, and we had this a private camper van overlooking a secluded dam, which you could kayak on. And I knew that it was going to be like, you know, a luxurious moment. And for someone coming from where I come from, like 1980s, West Manchester, Salford, racism, violence, all sorts of like stuff like that. I knew that was going to be a moment. And I made a point to take across a pot noodle, which is a very ghetto, like instant noodle pot. And I remember that as I got there, I was hungry as well. I just sat on the porch overlooking the dam, you know, under the mountains. And just munch down some instant noodles, because I was like, you know, I need to feel both, right? I need to feel myself. You know, I need to be in the moment and be present, but I also need to remember what it's like to grow up living in a, you know, with 7 people in a 2-bedroom place above a shop, with plastic on the windows, trying to keep the cold out, missing Christmas presents, you know, not going on school trips. That was all in the taste of that pot noodle, whilst having my feet up and overlooking the mountains and the dam. So you got to make sure that whatever it is, whatever mnemonic it is, you can ground yourself with. At times like that, it's always good to it also heightens the gratitude as well, you know.
Stop and smell the roses, and also at the same time feel the roots in the ground.
And one of the things I see with block, like, you know, we're as you know, we work in the blockchain space, and Dubai's doing some spectacular stuff. Do you sort of feel that on the ground over there? Is that sort of like, I know that they've put their entire land registry in Dubai is on the blockchain. And I know it's a complete jump of topic. It was just one of those things. I mean, Dubai, you're in Dubai, man. I think that's kind of the center of, like, it's some amazing stuff happens over there, right?
Yeah. So the thing about Dubai is Dubai is what you make it. Dubai can be simultaneously half empty and half full. And it's interesting because I've got a producer who I'm kind of courting at the moment to move to Dubai. And it's an interesting thing for him to hear. Like, you have your internet companies in Internet City. You have your media companies in Media City. You've got your design companies in Dubai Design District. And everyone says, well, you know what? That's so compartmentalized and it's not integrated. It's not like being in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, where you've got all different people that do all different things, or Shoreditch in East London. But to your point, if you wanted to go and find out about what's going on with blockchain, you can go and hang out in a government building in Emirates Financial Towers. And there are innovators there having coffees. So yes, it is kind of like, you know, compartmentalized and ring fenced. Yeah, anything that you want to get into, you know where to go and get into it. And Dubai is a very open place whereby you can go and get resources. You can go to free talks. You can go to free lectures. Some of the best and the brightest people come here. Like, you know, Peter Diamandis will come here and do talks. Tony Robbins has been here. Gary Vee's been here a bunch of times. You know, Vishen Lakhiani, like Jay Shetty, the best of the best in terms of like thinkers when it comes to tech, philosophy, and everything in between. And they're the people that the public have access to. Of course, there are other people coming here to do things that we, you know, Dubai will not even share with the public for the next 2 or 3 years because it's so big. There was just a video recently of the first human Hyperloop test here in the UAE. So I would really encourage people that, because we have so much safety here, because we have such incredible leadership with the Sheikh here, in the absence of crime and in the absence of all of those things that are in other countries, you can quickly get down with the people you want to get down with in this city. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. And now to answer your question more directly, I've been so much in the mode of building content warriors at the moment that I've not been hanging out with my friends in the blockchain world and the tech world. Yet the moment that I want to, I jump in a taxi, I pay six Aussie dollars, and I'll be in the heart of it. You know what I mean? Because the neighborhood where those people do their work is not too far from here.
Yeah, it is. We watch it. I'm not just talking about blockchain here. I'm talking just generally, like as a tech hub or as an innovation hub. Dubai does some amazing stuff. And we sort of get it, you know, you see it hitting the front of the Australian Financial Review or the front of the news or the tech magazines, and it is pretty, it's unbelievable the way they're collaborating now over there. And tell me, so you've had a lot of like, I guess, influence and impact and time with Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because like he's someone that, like, I know there's like full cult following over here in Australia. And I'm assuming it's the same over there. Like, how did you end up with such a close relationship and working together?
It was listening to my instincts. You know, I was lucky enough to have a relationship quite early with, you know, the comedian Russell Peters and a bunch of different people, Dynamo, the magician, but specifically with Gary, there was a time where in 2007, 2008, he was making a big deal, bragging, quite frankly, about the fact that he replies to every tweet and replies to every email personally. So when I found out he was going to be in London for future, when I knew he was going to be in London for Future of Web Apps, I just did a Hail Mary and I emailed him, and he said, yeah, I'll be checking out of this hotel at this time. Come through and say hello. So at that time, the coolest kids in technology at most had a BlackBerry in their pocket or a flip cam. If you remember those little boxes that they record in VGA, not even in HD. And so we went over there, and because we'd been really active DJs, Vic and myself, my partner, my DJ partner, and my cousin, we were quite early in the days of YouTube, making content with celebrities, interviewing them because we were meeting them in abundance as DJs. So we already had all the cameras and the microphones, and we got another friend of ours, Anish, to come over. And in the hotel lobby, there was probably 3 or 4 people that he said could come by. And they came over and they shook his hand and they got him to sign an autograph when those things used to still happen. And some people took a little bit of flip cam footage. We got there about an hour early, and we turned his hotel breakfast room into a full-on studio. So 2 cameras set up, 3 microphones, digital mixing board, SE 2200 mics for those people who know those microphones, like the same microphones that Amy Winehouse uses. And we did our first podcast with him, which was the Creative Content Agency podcast in 2008. And then we did another one as DJs, Love Soul DJs. So one was all focused on content strategy, and the other one was focused on like Biggie mixtapes and hip hop. So awesome. We got those 2 interviews in there, and then, you know, Gary then released Crush It, and then we did the promo video for that for his PR company when they came over. Got another one-on-one interview with him, another one in Liverpool, another one somewhere else, another one somewhere. And then the last 2 were VaynerWorld 1 in 2013 and VaynerWorld 2 in 2016. So, you know, Gary's just such a real mofo, you know what I mean? Like he's such a, and I know he's engineered his life this way so that people say this about him, but it would be wrong to not kind of be honest about him. Like he's a nicer guy in real life than anything that I've ever seen on any of his content. Like I've seen him say things to people, do things for people that will like, it's nosebleed stuff. It's almost like you're seeing it at the end of a Hollywood movie, and that's just him at a random 5:45 on a Tuesday evening. Like he's a really, really solid dude. And I probably met him 12, 15 times in my life. In the early days when he was his schedule was not as tight, you know, we'd walk down the street in London. People wouldn't hassle him. We'd go for Mexican food and get some real time in. He's just been a wonderful influence on my life. You know, he's the kind of person that I would, you know, if Indians, we have these kind of like little, I don't know how you would say it in English, but we keep like a little area where we put like our pictures of our like gurus and elders and stuff like that, and people that have been good to us, uncles, and, you know, people that might have passed away. I would like legit put his picture inside that because he's had such a positive impact on my life. And also it's very easy to copy and paste his operating system into your own head and look at things in a very positive way and in a generous way. And, you know, I was in a negotiation last night. I got completely caught off guard. I went to a meeting, and the meeting just accelerated really, really quickly. And a whole bunch of people on the client side walked into the meeting. It must have been me versus 4 people. And I just took out every single person one by one by making sure that 51% of the deal was going in their direction.
Yeah.
So they were like, I want this. And I was like, take it from my budget. And they were like, I want this. And I was like, take it from my budget. I need this, take it from my budget.
Yep.
No problem. Because I'm thinking long-term.
Yep.
I'm thinking about offering more value to the person on the other side of the table. Because one thing that I've realized after 22 years in this game is I'm going to be here forever.
Yep.
Like my train is never stopping. I'm going to be successful forever.
Yep.
So I can afford to let people get their rocks off now and again. You know what I mean? a month, a year,
Yep.
you know, people want to take advantage. People want to do things. It's all good. I'm going to be here forever.
That's good.
Let it all play out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It all comes out in the wash. I think you really see who's going to be around in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and who's going to just keep. And you know what? You've already was saying you've backed up. You know, you've got VHS. Content from, and you're still saying the same thing and still doing the same thing, except just keep saying it, doing it better and growing and expanding. And like I follow your content on Instagram and LinkedIn, you know, and it's you practice what you preach, and that's a lot of people preach, but they don't practice it.
And the advantages never stop. Like I'm so grateful that you guys reached out in the last couple of weeks. I know we were going to speak last week and I was like, actually, hold on. I want to talk through the whole Content Warriors thing. If I speak to you last week, I can't really talk about it because I just wanted to make sure that I was 100% comfortable with the timelines and the deliverables. But I was like, hey guys, you know, how many people would need to, you know, pay PR companies and do a whole bunch of stuff to talk about something that they're doing only to take the clip and put it on the internet? How many people would pay a company to get them on breakfast television, knowing that no one's watching it, just to get that clip and eventually put it on YouTube and share it on their social media?
True.
And here we are going social first,
you
know, creating clips that God willing benefit you and also will benefit me for sure. And we have these kind of relationships, and, you know, and vice versa. You ever come to the city and you say, hey, listen, I've got 72 hours in the city. Can I get 2 or 3 handshakes with some significant girls and guys in the city? I'm like, of course, guys. Like, I'm flicking through my WhatsApp and I'm texting people. And that's where community crosses boundaries, right? Especially when it comes to hustlers. Like, doesn't matter what our background is, like white, black, gay, straight, tall, short. Like, if you're a hustler and you're an entrepreneur, you got a kindred spirit with people all around the world, whether you're selling like bunny chow bread in South Africa or you're working on silicon chips for Apple. Yeah,
that's true. It really is true. Yeah. So I don't think I could have framed anything better than that. That's I've never actually looked at it like that, but it really is true. You see, you know, some people you just connect with, and then other people it's just you say, oh no, they just don't get it. You got to get the hustle. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so as far as like the new content that you're putting out, content warriors, right? So can people already? And I guess can people already go and look at that? Like, should that, like, do you know what I mean? Because I mean, I see your results. I know, and I promote your stuff wholeheartedly. So I mean, is there somewhere people can go yet, or is it something that's coming up soon, or is it wait and follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, I've not announced it on Instagram yet. I probably will by the time that you put this time you put this video out. But so the website is contentwarriors.co, and one thing I realized is that things take about 3 years, like to really get figured out. So I remember when I first went to London in 2005, I was DJing to basically the waiters and the people that were cleaning the floors in restaurants. And then 3 years later, we did the Gherkin building and we put 500 people in there. You know, things, my friends, your friends, you know, we started off with 15 people, 3 years later, 3,500 people. We've done the Burj Khalifa. So we're starting this in 2020. I'm sure it's not going to have its kind of like Oscar moment until 2023. So can people take part? Absolutely. It's not fully automated yet. I don't know what the right automation system is, quite frankly. I've not figured it out. But what we are doing at the moment is we're saying, if you go to contentwarriors.co, you like what you see, send us an application form. We'll review it in person, and then we'll bring you on board manually, and we'll make sure that you get super extra love. You know what I mean? Like, this is the thing that I've realized as well. If you support me in any of my businesses, and you know, I'm below 24 months, like it's the first 2 years of the business, you're going to get treated like a king. You're going to get 5 times back what your money what money you invest, because, you know, eventually once we systemize it and make it, you know, make it procedural, then it's going to be a little bit more automated, a little bit more standardized. But right now I'm going to throw the whole kitchen sink at you to make sure you get value for money. So our systems are set up whereby people can apply on an individual basis to take part in Content Warriors, learn the course at their own pace, and then take their 3 one-on-one sessions. So after they've done the theory, after they've made the content, and after they've published and promoted it, and then we put them into the community. And then once we start seeing some trends, once we've put a couple of hundred people through the program and we start seeing some trends, then we'll systemize it. And then God willing, you know, within 12 months, we'll be able to automate it so that it's kind of completely frictionless. But we are leaning into the fact that it's a manual process right now, because I want to know every single nook and cranny of how it works. It's the same as when I was a promoter. I need to know who all the bouncers are, who's the head bouncer, what authority they've got, who's the head of F&B, who's the general manager, who's the guy handing out towels in the toilets. I need to see and feel everything. And then after that, I'll start, you know, handing off some of that to other people or to other technological platforms that can automate things. I know there's a lot of people that are like, you know, funnels and automation and follow-up emails. And I'm like, no, that's disrespectful to somebody who's put their hand in their pocket and given me their credit card details. You will get a manual concierge level service from the founder of the company and my team. And then once we figure out where the efficiencies are, we'll put efficiencies in place that benefit the person, the customer, the student, not us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, we have the same approach when we launch a new course too, where we start at the grassroots, same thing, where it's quite a manual, laborious process, but it's important to know that, and we're getting direct feedback. Something goes wrong with the platform and they can't access something. We want to know about it. One of the things that constantly comes up is when people don't get treated. Like, people are okay with problems as long as there's a resolve there and they feel like someone actually cares. People hate it if there's a problem and then there's a email me and I'll get back to you in 4 days or something, and they're like, what the hell, I paid money for this and I can't use it. And it's interesting, like one of the short courses we put out, we had a couple of bugs, and it was completely a platform issue, nothing to do with us or technically anything to do with our content, but the platform itself had a bug. And I love the person, her name's Fleur. She was lovely because she, for some reason, had every single thing that could go wrong went wrong with this one person. And there was constant back and forth, like, oh, I can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. And I'm thinking, I was embarrassed at the amount of issues she had, but I worked with her through the whole thing. And at the end, she said, oh, like, regardless of all those, I'm more than happy to be an ambassador. I'd like to refer people to you. I've got friends who want to do the course. The content was unbelievable. And that created that sort of relationship where she literally wants to be an advocate of the product. And for us, it's humbling in the sense that we're delivering the goods on the content, and the platform was an issue which could be overlooked based on getting resolution. So
it's the reason. You're absolutely right. It's the reason why you're going to be much more patient with a problem with your food in a when the plate of food costs $60 in a family restaurant versus if you get something wrong in your McDonald's burger, because your McDonald's burger, just was pumped out by a system and it's not personalized. Whereas if you pay $60 for a plate of pasta in a family-run Italian restaurant, and the son of the owner or the owner is there or the mother of the owner is there, you're completely okay with them coming out being like, oh, you know what? That's the wrong pepper. You're right. Give me 12 minutes. I'll bring you a fresh one. Because you know that you've got direct access to the person who's got the authority, who can put their hands up and say, yeah, you know what, this isn't exactly what I was planning to sell you, or you found an error here, and we'll replace it. And you can just put your hands up. But the system I've created shouldn't have any errors in it. But in the event that somebody wants extra stuff or isn't interested in something, I can make those tweaks as we go along. For me, again, it's a 3-year play. It will be successful. And maybe with the way technology is working, it might even be less than a 3-year play. But yeah, it's going to be a great business. And the way that I think about Content Warriors is, I imagine like a Mount Rushmore. And I think on that Mount Rushmore at the moment is Love Soul, which is the DJing brand that I built and the media brand that I built, which then took me into, I would say, VaynerWorld would be like the next kind of big flagship. And then My Friends, Your Friends. And there's still a 4th slot on that mountain. And I think Content Warriors is gonna occupy that 4th slot.
Yeah, well, you did say that when you said that when we were talking the other day. You said, look, I've there's like only a couple of times where I've had this level of excitement. One of them was with VaynerWorld. That's exactly what you said. So I mean, that's I know it's going to be big. I'm so excited to I'm so excited for you for it. You know, it's Is it going to be something that you do globally? Like, is it globally reaching, or you're focusing more on Dubai, or like, do you have specific countries or?
So one thing about having a physical agency is that everything requires us to go on location and shoot and things like that. And that was not beneficial in the sense that what people needed in the first 3 months was more strategy and conversation and talking things through. So it's going to be global because that's something that we can offer at scale. And there was some restrictions with video conferencing platforms and stuff in the UAE prior to COVID. But when COVID kicked in, things like Zoom, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams allowed us to speak freely and at no cost, which is, of course, something that the rest of the world has been used to for a long period of time. But it's something that only became an option for us here in 2020. So as a result of that, you know, rather than offering our strategies in person in boardrooms to companies with big checkbooks here in the UAE, it's something that we can offer to people in Michigan, Miami, Manchester, Madrid, Melbourne, everywhere, you know, all around the world, because the in-person, the live component, the one-on-one coaching that happens over Zoom can be done now for us at scale. And of course, the core learning materials are delivered in video format. So it's going to be a worldwide offering. We're going to be using the Teachable platform, at least for our first version, which offers billing in all of the major mature markets where we think people would need this service. So yeah, fully global.
Cool.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're looking at platform options as well for the forward facing. Obviously, we've got a platform now. It's working okay. We've got a bit more runway with that one. But in this transition, we also realized there's a major opportunity to use blockchain and basically tie the student journey into a blockchain application. So at the end, they get their credential recognized and on blockchain, so it's verifiable. They can share it, whatever, permission based, all this sort of stuff. But you can track the journey, and there becomes a history of validity to their studies, their assessments, their milestones, and everything's verifiable, and then it all becomes transparent, or based on permissions if need be or whatever. And that's kind of where the next level of accountability comes into the learning. Like when we talk, in our case, it's accredited courses, right? So there's that level of scrutiny around it anyway. And part of the issue is when you get a rogue operator, or you get someone who fraudulently, they say they're an expert, they make a Photoshop document. Did they really do it? How do you know? And that's actually a major problem all across the globe. And even in Australia, in a place where education's highly regulated, it's scrutinized and whatnot, fraud's a big deal. But the platform, none of the platforms currently offer any sort of even an edge into that. And we were like, oh, look at that, just as an opportunity. We were looking at platforms for a future facing solution. Now we're looking at it as, well, if we're going to do that, maybe we do this and this, and build the platform and provide the same solution to everyone else who could fall in the same category. So,
yeah, I think that's a great strategy. You know, minimum viable product. There's so many software as a service options out there that you can use as little sandboxes to test, you know, maybe even a behavior from your customer. And then as that behavior starts to scale, sometimes it can be cheaper to invest in a little bit of native technology platforms and take it away from those SaaS companies, especially if it integrates better on the back end. So yeah, it's a good strategy. And again, you know, you're clearly a seasoned platform builder and entrepreneur. So you know that you can do things one way for a period of time, 12 months, 24 months, and then change.
Yeah.
Because the internet is going to change regardless of whether we decide to keep our systems or not.
I hope we are a big part of that. You know, we see it as blockchain is one of the infrastructure layers of the future anyway, where everything ties together. Hence why we are where we are, and why we keep pushing towards the education side and getting more people to embrace it. But yeah, I think the internet, there's no question the internet's going to change. I always think back, 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, so not even that long, for internet banking and things.
Yeah.
If you were to say, oh, I'm going to buy something online, must be like 7, 8 years ago, people would roll their eyes and be like, you what?
No,
don't put your credit cards online. And now it's like, what don't you buy online?
I see you there, buddy, and I raised you. Like in 2000, I started work on a thesis called M-commerce, a revolutionary opportunity to get into the minds and pockets of consumers. And I was talking about WAP in those days, which is not the WAP that Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are talking about. It's a wireless application protocol, 2G technology, oncoming 3G technology, where billions of pounds, right after a NASDAQ crash was spent on bandwidth on 3G. And I was writing about 3G, 4G, banking apps, mobile apps, things like that. And even my own lecturers were like, I don't see all of this coming into fruition. But I was talking directly to the network carriers, and it just takes. And again, dude, this is what I was talking about. Like, it's so interesting how I felt in 2008 when I kind of hit 10 years in the game, predominantly in the music space. And at that time, I was transitioning more and more into technology. I used to work for a incredible dude called Rafa Ali, who, if you Google him, is the CEO of a company called Skift right now, which is one of the biggest travel media companies. But prior to that, he was the CEO and founder of a company called Paid Content. And we sold that business. Well, he sold it, and I was employee number 6 to the Guardian Media Group in July 2008, right before before the October 2008 financial crisis hit.
So good time.
And, yeah, and it's like, and that was at the 10-year mark, and I was very fortunate. He gave me share options on that, but then, then it came to 2018, and I was like, God damn, like 20 years in the game, and now at 22, it's like you realize that it's such a long-term play, dude. Yeah. Like, and there's nothing to fear when it comes to doing this for a long period of time. Yeah. I remember when I hit 30, which would have been 10 years ago now, I was talking to Vic, my partner, and I was like, Calvin Harris was coming along, Bob Sinclair was coming along, all these kind of like big branded DJs were coming along. And I was like, if I'm going to be a bigger DJ, I'm going to need to start putting out singles and, be the face of the brand and get artists to jump on my songs and get producers to help me produce the songs. And that's the future of a DJ. Yeah. And the problem then is, even if you're successful, the older you get as a DJ, the less credible you get, the less that people want to see you, unless you're like, a super legendary kind of DJ. So I was like, I'm in an industry right now in entertainment and music where the older I get, the more my value goes down. And so I was like, if I really go all in on consulting right now, the longer you consult and the more experience you have and the more errors of the internet that you've worked through, the more valuable you become, because you get to brag about the patterns you've recognized and the trends that you've spotted and the things that you've guided your clients to invest in. And so it's all about setting yourself up for a long-term game. You've got to create a situation, especially as you enter your 30s, where you're proud of your commitment to something, as opposed to being ashamed of doing it for too long. It's got to be something which is an asset that grows, rather than a liability where you become less and less valuable the more you commit to it. Yep,
that's true.
Yeah, as we exit our 30s. Well, I'm exiting mine.
I'm 42,
you guys are
I'm 42, so
yeah.
Got
welcome to the 40s.
It does get better.
Oh no, that's good.
It just continues to get better.
Yeah, I'd have to say I agree with you. Like, all the way from early 20s, there was a bit of a struggle. We've had our ups and downs in business, and the School of Hard Knocks has taught us a few lessons. But yeah, like sometimes you feel like you're being dragged over the gravel, and you got people hitting you with phone books, and then you finally get up at the other end dazed, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's going to take a bit to recover. Get back on the track. We go.
This negotiation that caught me off guard yesterday, well, it didn't catch me off guard. I'm always ready for a fight, but like, so funny is, as soon as we walked out of that meeting, the producer, who's, he's passing through the city at the moment, he was like, I was like, as we walked out, he was like, I just saw 22 years worth of experience. Yeah. And I would have been less capable of doing that negotiation with 17 years or 15 years or 12. Yeah. Like, we all have a good instinct because we're killers, and we have that, we know what we want in a situation. We're going to try and do what we can to get it. Yeah. But there's this compound effect, right? Like every single person that was in the meeting last night, I've dealt with before. Yeah. So the head of in this case, it was an event deal. So the head of F&B, the chef, I've met that grumpy chef before, and I've broken them down, and
before they've employed them before.
I've met the head of events and marketing before, that comes in, with the slick trousers and the nice jacket, and broken them down. And I've met the salesperson that's got targets, and and they're focused on the numbers and broken them down. So, you know, there is a compound effect in sticking with something like this. And fundamentally, you know, people will always want certain things. People will want things to get faster, cheaper. People will always want to connect. And for me, I really feel like I'm grounded in some fundamental industries, which is events and technology and education. You know, that's education's such a massive opportunity. The era that we're going into right now, where anybody can educate anybody else, and it's all done on a meritocratic basis, is it's really wonderful era. And you guys understand this, you know, better than most because of the level of programs that you guys are designing and the level of accreditation that you offer.
Yeah, it's I think we've seen this year, 2020. I mean, a lot of bad stuff's happened in 2020, but I think it's really, in a lot of ways, it's compressed timeframes. I feel like it's changed. I mean, you know, for instance, in Dubai, you've said, you know, now you're able to do Zoom meetings. You know, it's the whole world. We used to spend years trying to get people to get on you know, so look, I don't have time to drive across the city. Let's get on I think it was GoTo meeting back then.
Yeah.
And no one wanted to do it. No, we have to meet face to face. We have to do this. And I think these times of COVID just really have compressed all the timeframes and forced people to actually look at changing their strategies. And I think fast forward another year or two down the track, and everyone's going to be looking back at 2020 and saying, as a case study, they really are. And they're going to look back and they're going to go, 2020 was a case study, and it showed how quickly the world could evolve and change, and you know, for lack of a better, you know, word, pivot. But it's incredible time.
So my advice for any entrepreneurs that are thinking about that at the moment, you know, 2020 had a 70 to 75% downward financial impact on my agency business, you know, because we couldn't go out. We were all in lockdown. So the company that does a lot of production, we saw our revenue kind of really go on a roller coaster down. But we already had a digital program that we were designing. Okay, it didn't have the name Content Warriors and things like that. That's all stuff that came to me as a result of like conversations with folks and meditating and just thinking about how I wanted to take it to market. But my advice to people is make sure you price in the future. So what I mean by that is I already had a 2022 business ready in my mind for when COVID hit. So now, if you look at the fact that the kind of progress that e-commerce has made, you know, MasterCard at the beginning of this year said 12% of all transactions were with e-commerce, and now we're in the late 20%, and that would have normally taken 5 to 10 years to play out. So if we now adjust and say, okay, we're living, when it comes to e-commerce, in a world that without COVID we would have been in 2025. Don't start thinking 2025 right now. Start thinking 2027. Because everyone's like, oh, we're living in the future, and my business has changed, whether it be working from home as an employee or selling your stuff online as a business owner. But you've also got to factor in how much ahead you need to be.
That's right.
So if right now you've gone, okay, I was playing a 2022 game for 2020, but now I'm playing a 2025 game, I'd be like, listen, price in how much ahead you need to be of your new reality. So you've got to be playing a 2027 game now. And that gives you enough of a buffer so that you can take some of your profits, take some line items in your P&L and do a little bit more hedging, especially with Brexit happening, especially with a change of guard in the US, especially with all sorts of changes coming with big data and AI. And what's really interesting, guys, is that, and I was always ready for this particular recession. I knew that this recession was going to make the 2008 one look like Disneyland. It's because when people lost their jobs in the 2008 recession, there was another series of industries, the innovators that were growing, that were able to catch those people. So you could have lost your job at Lehman Brothers and Deloitte and found yourself working inside Facebook or Google.
True.
But right now, if you lose your job, there are less safety nets around you to catch you, because some of the jobs that you've been doing right now, when the market does start to pick up again, which could be 12, 24 months, by the time you go back to look for those jobs, AI could have taken them over.
For sure.
Robotics could have taken some of that space up. And so then you've got to say, okay, well, I can't just take my skill from this dying industry and this vulnerable industry, call it big banking, down to an emerging industry, call it innovation and tech. It's like, okay, I might need to add some additional skills to the one that I've got and come up with a very unique cocktail. So I'm an accountant who understands big data, or I'm an AI specialist who also understands hospitality. And you've got to decide, okay, what's my particular career cocktail, and how's that going to be, if not future-proof, at least able to get me through the next era in society and technology.
Yeah, so they got to come see us.
Yeah.
Our
They do.
Literally applied AI,
And
IoT in a blockchain ecosystem. So that's literally with the it's
going
literally
into the
regulators now. So it's you're right, that world of where it's all going to go. It's an exciting world, I think, we live in. But you're right, you have to look into the future.
Yeah, one of the things you just mentioned before rings so true with some advice that's always stuck with me. Is what there's a gentleman one night I got introduced to him, and he's done extremely well in and across his whole life. Someone that, I'm always about, like, if someone has what you want, take advice, otherwise probably don't. And he said, look, one of the biggest things I can share with you relating to business and success for business is, no matter how big you get, always have a division of disruption for yourself, because if you don't disrupt, someone else will come and disrupt you. Yeah. So he said, make it an internal part of your business as, like, how can we disrupt? How can we prepare for what's coming? And literally, hopefully, cannibalize the business from internally, rather than just be eaten by somebody else. And so, like, what you're talking about, looking, at 2027 now, is we live and breathe and have conversations. The three of us who on the daily, we're like thinking, okay, well, what are we doing here? What's our next play? What's our next play? And it happened right when we started too. We were like, well, okay, we see it going here. Yeah. Are we willing to put our money where our mouth is? And are we willing to work the next couple of years to back our judgment? And when we started, literally everyone said, nah, you're nuts. You shouldn't, don't worry about that. It's not going to work. You won't get your course approved. By the time you do, it'll be obsolete, whatever. And we just said, you know what, we're going for it all in, and we went. And so I kind of I like when there's someone like yourself, got a track record, well positioned, saying, this is how I look at things. And I'm like, sweet, we're on track. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to say that, and people are going to feel that way. And that's okay, because, like, I remember when I first started My Friends, Your Friends, and people were like, why would I come to an event where I just want to make friends? There's a good friend of mine was very, very high up in a company, a sports company that's known for just doing it. Let's say that. And she said to me, like, why would I come to an event that's not got anything to do with sports apparel and things like that? And I said, she goes, I want to meet other people in that industry. I want it to be specific and focused if I'm going to come out. And I was like, no, it's not going to be that. It's going to be a place where you're just going to come and make friends. It's not going to be about biz dev. It's not going to be about dating. It's not going to be about your industry. And then I went ahead and did it. And I realized in that situation that there's nothing wrong with that person. That person really kind of has been a great supporter and really loves the stuff that I do in general, but couldn't wrap their head around it, because you're building something for the future. You're like, you've got to remember, you're building something that doesn't exist yet. Yeah. So how can you've got to get rid of that. You've got to get rid of that need for other people to validate you. 2020 for something that's not even going to be popping until 2022. Like right now, everybody who comes to My Friends, Your Friends is like, oh, I get it. But still to this day, and this was part of the conversation yesterday, someone was like, well, how do you know that this is going to be successful? And I'm like, I can show you all the stats. And I showed them records of the 3,500 people that are part of the community, like not their personal data, but just as a number, right? Like, here's how many people as a number have signed up on this empirical database. And they were like, yeah. But, and I was like, you know what? It all comes down to the baptism. Once you've seen it, once you've tasted it, you're like, okay, I kind of get it. It kind of makes sense. You tell somebody who comes from a place where the idea of taking a raw piece of fish, wrapping it in some seaweed and then some rice and then dipping it in salty soy sauce and then eating it, they're like, well, it doesn't make sense. And then you go, here you go. And they go, damn, I could eat this every Thursday. You know what I mean? It's like, because everybody can't leap into the future. That's the gift that we were given as entrepreneurs. And sometimes when we leap into a future, we leap into a future that doesn't exist and we lose money.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or we leap into a future that, would be a better world, but might not be a world that people are prepared to pay for.
Yep.
Sometimes.
And that's what happens when you fling your duvet off every morning and your feet hit the ground and you head over to brush your teeth. That's the world that you're playing in.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Also wouldn't have it any other way. Yes.
Yep. I think we're a bit unemployable now.
Unemployable.
Although the one thing that we also, I think you might have said it on something recently as well, is I'm sure it was your content, and you said you got to make sure also that you employ yourself from a work ethic and accountability perspective.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also are looking at how not to be an employee at the same time, if that makes sense, right? We've got to keep our head above the water and look to the horizon, but at the same time, someone's got to be swimming. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what your vision's like if you're not doing any action.
Yeah, I mean, as I think that, the run that entrepreneurship's had in the last 10 years has kind of downgraded socially what it means to be an employee versus what it means to be an entrepreneur. It's like being an entrepreneur is like being the new, the kid who can play the guitar, or the new up and coming rock star, right? But it's really not about that, because it's not long before you realize that as an entrepreneur, you're probably going to need to employ some people. And the last thing you want to do is employ people and make them feel like they're lower rank because they've chosen to be employed. And so one way to get around that as an entrepreneur is to understand that you are employed by your employees.
Yeah.
So somebody I'm taking on at the moment, I'm like, tell me what you want. Like, because I've got a vision of what I need and you've got a vision of what you need.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, the only way this relationship's going to work is if you're happy in your job. So let's make it more about you. Let's map it around you. Do you imagine yourself coming to work every single day? Do you need lions on certain days? Is it important that you have coffee near where you work, or whatever the case may be? And it's like, everybody's employed. Everybody's employed. Even entrepreneurs are employed by the people they employ, because they become your most important stakeholders and you work for them.
Have you been out to Australia?
Yeah. Spent some time in Melbourne, Gold Coast, Coolangatta, Sydney, a whole bunch of spots. In fact, it's funny. I have a very special place in my heart for Australia, because when I got the payout from the sale of the company to The Guardian in 2008, I took some of that money. I was sat in, I believe it was the beach in Coolangatta. I've even DJ'd in Byron Bay at the hotel club. And that's the only place I ever did a stage dive, which was cool. But I remember I remember prior to that stage dive, lying on the beach and thinking to myself, okay, I've got this money. I don't have any debts. What do I really enjoy doing? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I'm lying on the beach, sand's underneath me. I can hear the ocean. I'm looking at the sky and I'm like, I really love, in everything I've ever done, whether it be DJing or in LA and New York with this company, I always enjoyed recording things, making content. I want to create content. I don't imagine myself being somebody who builds a big company. I wouldn't mind just being an agent of somebody who can create content, and working with people on a freelance basis, or being a freelancer. So I wouldn't mind some sort of like being an agent or an agency and creating content. And I was like, boom, creative content agency. And that's when I got up and I headed over and bought the URL, went back to the hostel, bought the URL. And it was soon after that where I actually came home and changed the legal name of the company to Creative Content Agency. And then that's when we went all in.
So here's where it started,
very special place in my heart for Australia.
Awesome.
Well, next time, come back to the Gold Coast and we'll definitely look after you.
You can bet I can be there, but I also think your leadership's done a good job of exercising on the side of precaution. And if it means that Australia it's a little bit harder to come there, even if it's for 6 months more than it probably needs to be, I'd rather that people on both sides of your borders were safer. And then eventually when the time is right, I'll be over there and we'll get it cracking. And I also, a lot of people are very lean with their trips, if they've got a commitment on a Tuesday afternoon, they might fly in on a Monday night and then leave on a Wednesday morning. I'm the kind of dude that will pull up like 5 days early, go to the club, hang out, if there's press to do, I'll do additional, I'll pop in and I'll do radio slots and magazine slots and be with the people, and then stick around for an extra 10 days afterwards as well, just so I can
sounds like a plan.
Get down with things. You know what I mean? So and there's no point in coming to Australia for 4 days. You know what I mean? It's like, if we're going to do it, we get it in, let the body adjust, let the body clock adjust, be around folks, maybe even do an event down there and then get it cracking, So when I'm over there, we're going to get it popping for sure.
100%.
For sure.
And we'll look for if we can get over to Dubai before then, we'll do the same thing.
You already know Dubai's popping. Like
Yeah,
we're ready to go. Like Dubai is exactly the same as when you last came, except for you just need to wear a mask. That's it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Dubai is popping right now. Like the way that the market has bounced back here is insane. Like literally, you're seeing kind of like gains every single day when I leave my apartment. It's like, yeah, people are ready to do business.
Wow.
It's brilliant, man. The leadership here have done an incredible job.
That's awesome. On that, I mean, it's. I know I'm sort of aware of your time as well, but it's, man, I'm just so stoked to have been able to actually get you on a call and be able to actually get you in this environment and hear more about what you're doing. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do, man. It's just it's so high value. Thank you so much for jumping on with us today, man.
I appreciate the opportunity, and you know, I miss you guys. I'm looking forward to hanging out in person, and you know, thanks for even just creating space for us to catch up. It's nice that it's going into a podcast. You know, wherever this content ultimately goes, I'm very happy that it's going to be something that we can share with people. But you know, it was also nice just to kick it with you guys for an hour and catch up. So you already know where I'm at if you ever need me. So hit me up. And for everybody else who's watching or listening, my email address is raj@creativecontentagency.com, and I'm Raj Kotecha on all social media platforms, RajKotecha. Hit me up. I'm around. A really great hack for those of you who don't know me is send me a voice note on DM. Voice notes on DM on Instagram are limited to 1 minute, so please don't send like 5 of them. Just, you know, keep it to 1 or 2, and I will definitely like voice note you back. And I'm down to help as many people as I can and reach as many people as I can, build with as many people as I can. And you know, I'm just out here, man. I'm just like going for it. Like, I'm gonna be here forever. So let's just win. Let's just win. You feel me?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's awesome. So thanks again so much, man. Just seriously follow, you know, jump on, follow him on the socials. You'll get your values worth. But once again, just thank you so much. Appreciate it, bro.
Guys. Thank you so much. Peace. Much love. Peace.
Peace out.